Welcome back, dear friends and story lovers. Tonight we bring you a tale where love is tested, secrets come to light, and fate takes an unexpected turn. Every moment will pull you in deeper, and every choice could change everything. Tell us where you're watching from in the comments, and if this story touches your heart, like, subscribe, share it with someone who believes in true love, and hit the bell so you never miss the next chapter. Let's dig an asterisk. The blood on Celeste Harper's hands had finally dried, but she could still smell the metallic temps beneath. The expensive perfume she'd borrowed from Ruby, the Grand Meridian. Mattel's crystal chandeliers cast fractured light across the marble floor, each shard reflecting her fractured life back at her. She tugged at the emerald bridesmaid dress, the plunging neckline deliberately chosen to distract from the fresh bandage hidden beneath the fabric on her left shoulder. "Stop fidgeting, Cel." Ruby Chen spun in her wedding dress, oblivious to the fact that her maid of honor had killed a man just 6 hours earlier. "You look absolutely stunning tonight." Celeste managed what she hoped was a believable smile. The Bratva enforcer who'd cornered her in the library parking lot wouldn't be reporting back to Viktor Kozlov. She'd made sure of that with her father's old combat knife, the same blade now concealed in her clutch purse alongside the flash drive that could destroy half of Chicago's underground empire. "I still can't believe you're married now, Celeste," said watching Ruby's new husband, James, sweep her onto the dance floor. What she really couldn't believe was that she'd made it to the wedding at all. The Russian mob didn't usually give people second chances. "Maybe tonight will be your turn to meet someone special," Ruby called back over the orchestra music. Only Ruby knew that the last man Celeste had met was now feeding the fish in Lake Michigan. She made her way to the bar, desperate for something stronger than champagne to steady her nerves. The bartender handed her whiskey, neat, and she found a quiet corner near the windows to survey potential exit routes. Old habits died hard. 3 floors above, in the hotel's executive suite, Dante Romano pressed a blood-soaked towel to the bullet graze on his ribs and cursed his father's name. Harrison Romano's business dinner had been an ambush, orchestrated by their supposed allies in the Richardson shipping family. The only reason Dante was still breathing was because he'd recognized the setup and moved first. "I won't be anyone's sacrificial lamb," he muttered to his reflection in the bathroom mirror, watching crimson seep through the makeshift bandage. At 32, he'd inherited more than just Romano Enterprises. He'd inherited a legacy of blood, betrayal, and the kind of enemies who smiled while planning your funeral. His phone buzzed. Text from Nolan Cross, his business partner, and the only person he trusted. "Cleanup crew finished. Your father's asking questions." Dante grimaced. Harrison would want answers, and Dante wasn't ready to give them. Not until he figured out which of their allies could no longer be trusted. He grabbed his jacket and headed for the service elevator. But instead of going to the parking garage, he found himself drawn to the sounds of music and laughter from one of the ballrooms. He needed to disappear into a crowd, to blend in among normal people living normal lives where bullets weren't part of business negotiations. The ballroom doors were propped open, and elegant guests moved between the dance floor and cocktail tables. Dante smoothed his hair and walked in, his expensive suit hiding the weapon holstered at his side. That's when he saw her. A woman in an emerald dress stood alone near the windows, her chestnut hair cascading over one shoulder as she gazed out at the city lights. But it wasn't her beauty that caught his attention. It was the way she held herself, alert, watchful, like someone who understood that survival meant always knowing where the exits were. "Beautiful view," he said, coming to stand beside her at the window. Celeste startled, her hand instinctively moving toward her purse before she caught herself. She turned to find herself face to face with a man whose gray eyes held the same haunted shadows she saw in her own mirror. Tall, broad-shouldered, with the kind of controlled stillness that spoke of violence carefully leashed, she managed, noting the way he favored his left side. "Injured. Recently. It makes all the chaos down there look so peaceful." "You're not enjoying the party?" Dante asked, recognizing a kindred spirit in the woman before him. She wore expensive clothes like armor, and her smile didn't quite reach her eyes. "It's not really my scene," Celeste admitted, more comfortable. In the shadows, an interesting choice of words. Dante studied her face, noting the faint bruising along her jawline that makeup couldn't quite hide. I'm Dante, Celeste. She accepted his outstretched hand, and the moment their skin touched, she felt something she hadn't experienced in years. Trust or the possibility of it. Would you like to dance? He asked, still holding her hand. She hesitated. Dancing meant being close to someone, vulnerable. But something about this dangerous stranger made her want to take the risk. Warn you, she said, as he led her onto the dance floor. I'm not very good at pretending everything's fine. Neither am I, he replied, pulling her gently into his arms. As they moved to the slow, romantic melody, he could feel her trembling. Not from nerves, he realized, but from exhaustion. The kind of bone-deep weariness that came from carrying secrets too heavy for one person. You're hurt, she whispered, noticing the careful way he held himself. So are you, he murmured back, his thumb tracing the edge of the bruise on her jaw. For the first time in months, Celeste felt like she could breathe. This stranger, this beautiful, dangerous man, saw her. Really saw her. Not the librarian facade or the good girl act, but the woman who'd learned to kill to survive. As the song ended, neither of them stepped apart. The ballroom suddenly felt too exposed, too public. Would you like to get some air? Dante asked. Celeste knew she should say no, should return to her corner, finish her drink, and slip away into the night like she always did. Instead, she found herself nodding. Da-da. He led her through a side door, onto a private balcony overlooking the hotel's gardens. The cool night air carried the scent of jasmine and the distant promise of rain. This is better, Dante said, leaning against the stone railing. Tell me your real name. The question caught her off guard. What makes you think Celeste isn't real? Because I've been using fake names for so long I can spot them in others. He turned to face her fully. And because a woman who carries a knife in her purse and checks exit routes probably doesn't go by her birth name at parties, Celeste's blood ran cold. How had he noticed? I don't know what you mean. The way you moved when I startled you. Combat training. Military? Or something else? His gray eyes never left her face. You're running from something. Or someone. She should leave, should run. But instead she found herself saying, aren't we all? That's when she noticed the blood. Seeping through his shirt, fresh blood. Jesus, she breathed, stepping closer. You're bleeding. Dante looked down at the crimson spreading across his white shirt and cursed softly. It's nothing, just a scratch. That's not a scratch. Celeste's voice carried an authority that surprised them both. That's a bullet graze, and if you don't, get it properly cleaned and stitched. You'll bleed out or die from infection. You seem to know a lot about gunshot wounds. Dante's tone was carefully neutral, but his eyes were calculating. My father was a medic. Army. The lie came easily, because it was wrapped around a kernel of truth. Her father had been military before he'd become something much darker. Come on, you're sweet, I assume. Dante nodded, leading her back through the ballroom toward the elevators. As they walked, Celeste noticed how he moved, the subtle way he scanned the crowd, the positioning that kept his gun hand free. Professional. Deadly. The elevator ride felt like an eternity. They stood on opposite sides of the car, the air thick with unspoken questions and dangerous attraction, when the doors opened. Dante led her down a hallway lined with original artwork and into a suite that was larger than most people's homes. Bathroom, Celeste said without preamble. First aid kit, needle, thread, medical-grade alcohol if you have it. We're very bossy for someone whose real name I don't know, Dante observed, but he was already moving toward the marble bathroom. My real name is Celeste. She followed him, noting the way he favored his left side. Celeste Maria Santos. And yours isn't Dante anything, is it? He paused in gathering supplies from the medicine cabinet. What makes you say that? Because men who introduce themselves with only first names are usually the kind who have reasons to avoid last names. She gestured for him to sit on the edge of the bathtub. that shirt off. Dante hesitated for a moment, then slowly unbuttoned his shirt. When he shrugged it off, Celeste sucked in a breath, but the bullet wound was the least of it. His torso was a map of old scars, some surgical, others clearly from violence. Burns, blade marks, what looked like torture scars across his ribs. Jesus, she whispered. What happened to you? Same thing that happened to you, I'm guessing? His gray eyes met hers. Life. She began cleaning the wound with steady hands. Her touch gentle despite the clinical efficiency. This is going to hurt. I've had worse. But when she poured alcohol over the bullet graze, his jaw clenched and his hands fisted against his thighs. So have I, she said quietly, beginning to stitch the wound closed with the kind of precision that spoke of experience. The bruises. On your knuckles are fresh. Tonight, about 3 hours ago. Dante watched her work, mesmerized by her competence. Your turn? The bandage under your dress? Knife wound? Celeste's hand stilled for just a moment. How did you? The way you move your left shoulder, protecting it. His voice was gentle. Also, there's blood on your dress. Just a few drops near the hem, but I noticed. She finished the last stitch and stepped back, her hands shaking now that the task was complete. I killed someone tonight. The words hung between them like a confession and a challenge. Dante studied her face, seeing the truth in her eyes. So did I, he said finally. Yeah. Someone's actually Jesus. Celeste sank onto the marble bench across from him. What are we survivors? Dante reached for her hands, noting the calluses on her fingers, the faint scars that spoke of a life lived on the edge. The question is, what do we do now? Before she could answer, her phone buzzed with a text message. The blood drained from her face as she read it. What is it? Dante asked. I have to go. She was already standing, moving toward the door. Right now, Celeste. Wait. He caught her arm gently. Whatever it is, maybe I can help. This beautiful, dangerous stranger who'd somehow seen through all her carefully constructed walls in the span of an hour. Part of her wanted to tell him everything. About her father's debts to the Bratva. About the flash drive in her purse that contained enough evidence to bring down Viktor Kozlov's entire operation. About the fact that she was probably going to die before sunrise. Instead, she pulled out her phone and quickly entered her number into his. If you want to call sometime, you can, but I understand if you don't. Don't do this, Dante said, standing and reaching for his jacket. Don't run. Not from this. I'm not running. She turned back from the door, memorizing every detail of his face. I'm protecting you. Her phone buzzed again. This time, it was a photo. Grace, her 19-year-old sister, tied to a chair in what looked like an abandoned warehouse. The message below was simple. You have 1 hour. Come alone, or she dies. Have to go, Celeste whispered, her voice breaking. Who has your sister? Dante's voice was deadly quiet. Celeste's eyes widened. How did you? Because that's the only thing that would make a woman like you look that terrified. He was already reaching for the gun in his shoulder holster. And because I recognize that warehouse in the background, it's one of Viktor Kozlov's places. The name hit Celeste like a physical blow. You know Viktor? I know he's been trying to move in on Romano territory for months. Dante's smile was sharp and cold. And I know he made a very big mistake tonight by taking something that belongs to someone I care about. You don't understand, Celeste said frantically. This isn't your fight. Viktor will kill you. Let him try. Dante was checking his weapon with the calm efficiency of someone who'd done it 1,000 times before. My real name is Dante Romano. My family owns half of this city, and the other half owes us favors. And right now, Viktor Kozlov has something I want. Which is what? Dante looked at her with an intensity that made her heart race. You. The words hung between them like a promise and a threat. Outside, thunder rumbled in the distance, and the first drops of rain began to streak the windows. 1 hour, Celeste? Whispered, looking at her phone. Then we better get moving, Dante said, holding out his hand. Time to stop running. Celeste Santos. Time to fight back. The abandoned warehouse district reeked of rust and decay, industrial shadows stretching like fingers across broken concrete. Dante Romano crouched behind a shipping container, rain plastering his dark hair to his forehead as he surveyed Viktor Kozlov's stronghold through night vision binoculars. 12 men outside that I can see, he murmured into his earpiece. Probably twice that inside.
Oh.
This is suicide, Nolan Cross's voice crackled through the cum.
Oh.
Even with the team I've assembled, we're outnumbered 3-1. Then it's a good thing I'm not planning to fight fair. Dante adjusted his position, the fresh stitches in his side pulling tight. Beside him, Celeste checked her father's combat knife for the third time, her hand steady, despite the terror in her dark eyes. You don't have to do this, she whispered. Grace is my responsibility. She became mine the moment you trusted me with her name. Dante's gray eyes never left the warehouse. Tell me about the flash drive. Celeste's jaw clenched. Hoping he wouldn't ask, Victor's been laundering money through my library's computer system, installing malware, using our servers as a front. I discovered it 6 months ago and started copying files. And your father, the question she'd been dreading. Dead, killed trying to pay off debts to the Bratva, but not before he taught me everything he knew about killing. Dante finally looked at her, seeing the truth in her haunted expression. Your father wasn't a medic, was he? Captain Marcus Santos. Force Reconnaissance Marines? Later, private military contractor. Her voice was hollow. He did things. Bad things. For money, for country, sometimes just for the thrill. The debts he left behind weren't gambling debts, Dante. They were blood debts. How much blood? Victor's younger brother, Nikolai. The words tasted like ash in her mouth. My father killed him in Chechnya 5 years ago. Victor's been hunting him ever since. When he couldn't find my father, he settled for hunting me. Dante processed this information with the cold calculation of a man born into violence. So tonight was never about the flash drive. It was about revenge. The flash drive was just my insurance policy. Something to bargain with. Celeste's laugh was bitter. Lot of good it did, Grace. Your sister doesn't know about any of this? Grace thinks our father was a war hero who died in a car accident. She thinks I work at the library because I love books. Celeste's voice cracked. She's pre-med at Northwestern. Brilliant, kind, everything good that I'm not. She doesn't deserve to die for my father's sins. Dante was quiet for a long moment, watching the guards pace their routes. There's something you need to know about tonight. About the Richardsons. What about them? They weren't trying to kill me. They were trying to capture me. Dante's jaw tightened. My father has been negotiating a truce with Viktor Kozlov. Part of that truce involves handing over anyone with information about the Bratva's operations. The implications hit Celeste like a physical blow. He was going to give me to Viktor, along with anyone else who might be a threat to the new alliance. Dante's smile was razor sharp. What my dear father doesn't know is that I've been building my own intelligence network. I know about every dirty deal, every blood oath, every skeleton in every closet, including Victor's, especially Victor's. Dante pulled out his phone and showed her a series of photographs. 3 months ago, Victor tortured and killed a federal judge who was getting too close to his operations. I have video footage, financial records, everything. Celeste stared at the evidence that could bring down Chicago's most feared crime boss. Why haven't you used it? Because I needed leverage against my father first. Harrison Romano may have raised me, but he's not above sacrificing me if it serves his interests. Dante's eyes hardened. Tonight proved that. So what's the plan? Before Dante could answer, his phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Bring the girl and the drive. Come alone, or we start cutting pieces off your sister. The attached photo made Celeste's blood run cold. Grace still tied to the chair, but now Victor himself stood behind her with a knife pressed to her throat. The Russian's scarred face was split by a cold smile. 40 minutes, Celeste whispered, checking the time. Then we move now. Dante stood, rain streaming down his face. But we're not going in alone, and we're not going in empty-handed. What do you mean? Dante was already moving, speaking rapidly into his earpiece. Nolan, I need you to send the Victor files to every law enforcement agency in the city. FBI, D, Chicago PD, everyone. 30-minute delay. Dante, what are you doing? Celeste hurried to keep up with him as he strode toward the warehouse's main entrance. I'm making sure that no matter what happens tonight, Viktor Kozlov doesn't walk away. I stopped at the edge of the light spilling from the building's windows, and I'm betting everything on the fact that he wants you alive. What if you're wrong? Dante turned to her, his gray eyes fierce with something between love and madness. Then we die together. But your sister lives, and Viktor burns for what he's done. Before she could respond, the warehouse doors opened, and 6 armed men emerged. Automatic weapons trained on them. Behind them walked Viktor Kozlov himself, a tall man with silver hair and the kind of pale blue eyes that belonged on a shark. Celeste Santos, Viktor called out in accented English. You are exactly as beautiful as your father described before I killed him. The words hit like a sledgehammer, but Celeste forced herself to stand straight. Let my sister go, Viktor. You want me? You have me. Oh, but I want so much more than that. Viktor's gaze shifted to Dante, and his smile widened. Dante Romano, I was not expecting to see you here. Your father and I have an agreement. My father makes agreements for himself, Dante replied, his hand resting casually near his concealed weapon. Not for me. Ah, but you see, you are part of this agreement, along with the lovely Miss Santos and her very useful flash drive. Uday gestured, and more men appeared from the shadows. At least 20 now, all armed, all focused on them. Here's what is going to happen, Viktor continued conversationally. You will both come inside. You will give me the drive and tell me everything you know about my operations. And then, Miss Santos, you will watch as I kill your sister slowly, the same way I killed your father. Like hell, Celeste snarled, reaching for her knife. Ah. Viktor held up his phone, showing a live video feed. Grace was conscious now, tears streaming down her face as a man pressed a gun to her temple. One word from me, and she dies. So I suggest you both drop your weapons and walk inside like civilized people. Dante met Celeste's eyes, seeing the desperation and rage there. He gave the slightest nod toward his watch. 28 minutes until the files went live. They just had to survive that long. All right, Viktor, Dante said, slowly raising his hands. You win. We'll come quietly. I thought you might see reason. Viktor's smile was triumphant as his men moved to surround them. After all, family is everything, is it not? And soon we will all be one big, happy family. As they were herded toward the warehouse entrance, Celeste caught Dante's eye one last time. In his gaze, she saw a promise. Whatever happened next, Viktor Kozlov was going to pay for every drop of innocent blood he'd spilled. The warehouse doors closed behind them, with the finality of a coffin lid. The warehouse interior was a cathedral of shadows and rust, lit by harsh, fluorescent lights that turned everything sickly yellow. Grace Santos was bound to a metal chair in the center of the space, her Northwestern University sweatshirt torn, and bloodied, her face swollen from where someone had struck her. When she saw Celeste, she tried to speak through the duct tape over her mouth, tears streaming down her bruised cheeks. Grace, Celeste whispered, taking a step toward her sister. Before Viktor's men forced her to stop. Touching, Viktor said, circling them like a predator. The Santos sisters reunited at last, though I'm afraid this reunion will be brief. You have us, Dante said, his voice steady despite the odds. Let the girl go.
But young Grace
is not just insurance anymore. Viktor pulled out a tablet, swiping through files. You see, while we were waiting for you to arrive, we had a lovely conversation with Miss Grace here. It seems she knows far more about her sister's activities than anyone realized. Celeste's blood turned to ice. That's impossible. Grace doesn't know anything, doesn't she? Viktor showed them the tablet screen. Security footage from the university library, time-stamped from 3 weeks ago. It showed Grace entering the building late at night, using Celeste's access card, heading directly to the computer lab. Your sister has been helping you collect evidence against me. Such a clever girl. Pre-med students learn so much about anatomy, about where to cut to cause maximum pain without killing too quickly. You're lying, Celeste snarled. but the doubt was already creeping in. Grace's eyes above the tape were wide with terror and something else. Guilt. Tell her, Grace. Victor ripped the tape from the young woman's mouth, ignoring her cry of pain. Tell your sister how you've been playing spy. Grace's voice was barely a whisper. Cell. I'm sorry. I found the files on your laptop months ago. I knew something was wrong. Knew you were in danger. I just wanted to help. You stupid girl, Celeste breathed. Do you have any idea what you've done? She's done exactly what any loving sister would do, Victor said, his voice mockingly gentle. She's ensured that you both die tonight, along with your handsome boyfriend here. Dante checked his watch. 15 minutes until the files went live. You just had to stay alive 15 more minutes. What do you want from us, Victor? From you? Nothing you haven't already given me? Victor's smile was cold. You see, Dante, your father contacted me 3 hours ago, told me exactly where you would be and when. This entire evening has been orchestrated. The words hit Dante like a physical blow. His own father had set him up, had delivered him to Victor like a lamb to slaughter. Harrison Romano and I have reached an understanding, Victor continued. He gets to expand into Eastern Europe without interference from the Bratva. I get Chicago, and all the loose ends that might threaten our new partnership get neatly tied up. You son of a bitch, Dante growled, taking a step toward Victor before the surrounding guns stopped him. Your father sends his regards by the way. He wanted you to know that this is just business. Nothing personal. Victor laughed at the look on Dante's face. Well, I suspect killing you will be very personal for me. After all, it was a Romano bullet that ended my brother Nikolai's life. Celeste's world tilted. What? Oh yes, my dear. Your father may have pulled the trigger, but he was working for Romano Industries at the time. A private contract to eliminate threats to their overseas operations. Victor's eyes glittered with malice. Dante's family has owed me a blood debt for 5 years. Tonight I collect. The revelation shattered everything Celeste thought she knew. Her father had been working. For the Romanos, Dante's family was responsible for the chain of events that led to this moment. She looked at Dante, seeing her own shock reflected in his gray eyes. You didn't know, she said. It wasn't a question. I swear to you I didn't know. Dante's voice was raw with betrayal and rage. My father never told me about any contract. In Chechnya, doesn't matter now, Victor said, pulling out an ornate silver pistol. What matters is that tonight, the Santos bloodline ends, and the Romano heir learns the price of crossing the Bratva. That's when the warehouse lights cut out. Emergency lighting flickered on, bathing everything in red. In the confusion, Celeste heard the distinctive sound of windows breaking, followed by the rapid pop of automatic weapons fire from outside.
Ow, what the hell?
Victor shouted over the noise. Dante smiled grimly in the red light. Insurance policy. Nolan. Victor snarled. I thought your father had that handled. My father doesn't know about all my resources. Dante was already moving, using the chaos to get closer to Grace's chair. And Nolan doesn't take orders from Harrison Romano. The main doors exploded inward as smoke grenades filled the warehouse. Through the haze, muzzle flashes lit up the darkness like deadly fireworks. Victor's men were shooting at shadows while Nolan Cross's team picked them off with surgical precision. The girl... Victor screamed, swinging his pistol toward Grace. Kill the girl! Celeste launched herself forward, her father's combat knife appearing in her hand like magic. She tackled the nearest gunman, driving the blade between his ribs with the efficiency of someone who'd done it before. His weapon clattered to the concrete as he fell. Dante reached Grace's chair and began cutting her bonds with a tactical knife. Stay down, he told her. Whatever happens, stay down. But Victor had anticipated this. Through the smoke and gunfire, he appeared behind them, his silver pistol pressed to the back of Grace's head. Enough, he roared. The firefight gradually ceased, both sides recognizing the stalemate. Everyone stop shooting, or the girl dies right now. In the sudden quiet, the only sounds were the settling debris and Grace's ragged breathing. Victor's men were either dead or wounded, but he still held the ultimate card. You think you're so clever? Victor said to Dante, blood running from a cut on his forehead. But you're just like your father. You sacrifice anyone to get what you want. That's where you're wrong, Dante said quietly. He met Celeste's eyes across the warehouse floor, and she saw something in his gaze that made her heart stop. Nothing like my father. In one fluid motion, Dante stepped away from Grace and into Victor's line of fire. Take me instead. Let them both go, and I'll give you what you really want. A Romano to torture and kill. Dante, no! Celeste screamed, but it was too late. Victor's smile was triumphant as he shifted his aim from Grace to Dante. Such a noble sacrifice. Your brother would have been proud. The gunshot echoed through the warehouse like thunder, but it wasn't Victor's gun that fired. Harrison Romano stepped out of the shadows, smoke still rising from the pistol in his hand. Victor Kozlov crumpled to the concrete, a spreading pool of blood beneath his head. Sorry I'm late, son, Harrison said calmly, as if he hadn't just committed murder. Traffic was hell. Dante stared at his father in shock. You set me up. You were working with him. I was playing him, you stupid boy. Harrison holstered his weapon with the same casual efficiency his son had inherited. Did you really think I'd hand over my heir to some Russian thug? Victor Kozlov was useful for a time, but ultimately expendable. But the Richardson dinner, the ambush theater, all of it. Harrison looked around at the carnage with satisfaction. Victor needed to believe he had the upper hand. Now he's dead. His organization is leaderless, and we own Chicago outright.
Outright.
Celeste helped Grace to her feet, her mind reeling from the rapid reversals. What about us? Harrison Romano looked at the Santos sisters with the cold calculation of a man who viewed people as assets or liabilities. That depends entirely on what's on that flash drive, Miss Santos, and how willing you are to forget what you've learned tonight. Dante stepped between his father and Celeste, his hand resting on his concealed weapon. They're under my protection. Now are they? Harrison's smile was sharp. And what makes you think you're in any position to make demands? That's when Dante's phone buzzed. A text message. He glanced at it and smiled for the first time all night. Because in about 30 seconds, every law enforcement agency in the city is going to receive comprehensive evidence of Victor Kozlov's criminal operations, including financial records showing payments to Romano Industries for off-the-books contracts. Harrison's face went white. You wouldn't. I just did. Dante pulled Celeste and Grace toward the warehouse exit as sirens began to wail in the distance. Checkmate. Father, your move. As they stepped out into the rain-soaked night, Celeste caught Dante's arm. Your father will never forgive you for this. I know, Dante said, looking back at the warehouse where Harrison Romano stood frozen among the bodies. That's the point. But as they reached the street, Celeste felt a chill that had nothing to do with the rain. In saving her and Grace, Dante had declared war on his own family. Wars like that only ended one way. In blood. Six months later, Celeste Santos stood on the balcony of Dante's penthouse apartment. Watching the sunrise paint Chicago's skyline in shades of gold and crimson, the city looked peaceful from 30 stories up, but she knew better now. Peace was an illusion bought with blood and maintained through carefully balanced terror. You're up early, Dante said, joining her with 2 cups of coffee. His gray eyes were shadowed with the exhaustion that had become his constant companion since the night at the warehouse. Couldn't sleep. Celeste accepted the coffee gratefully, inhaling the rich aroma. The nightmares again. They stood in comfortable silence, both carrying scars that would never fully heal. The federal investigation had cleared them of any wrongdoing in Victor's death, but Harrison Romano's empire had crumbled under the weight of the evidence Dante had released. The patriarch now sat in a maximum security prison, awaiting trial for racketeering, murder, and a dozen other charges that would ensure he never saw freedom again. Grace called last night, Celeste said, breaking the silence. She got into Johns Hopkins, Full scholarship for their medical program. That's good news. Dante's smile was genuine despite his exhaustion. She deserves a fresh start. We all do. Celeste turned to face him, studying the man who had turned his world upside down to save her sister. The past 6 months had been a whirlwind of legal proceedings, media scrutiny, and the complex process of dismantling a criminal empire from the inside. Dante had testified against his own father, handed over decades of financial records, and systematically destroyed everything Harrison Romano had built. Any regrets? She asked. Only one? Dante set down his coffee and pulled her into his arms. I regret that it took a crisis for me to find you. We found each other, Celeste corrected, rising up to kiss him softly. In the middle of all that darkness, we found each other. But even as she spoke the words, she could see the weight of what he'd sacrificed eating at him. Dante Romano was no longer the heir to a criminal empire. He was just a man with a legitimate technology company and more money than he could ever spend, trying to build something good from the ashes of his father's sins. There's something I need to tell you, Dante said, his voice suddenly serious. Celeste's heart clenched. She'd been expecting this conversation for weeks. You're leaving? No. His hands tightened on her waist. Never. But there are people who want revenge for what happened to my father. It's people who think I betrayed the family. Dante, I've made arrangements. New identities, clean papers, enough money to disappear completely. His gray eyes were fierce with determination. We can leave tonight, all three of us. Start over somewhere safe. Celeste was quiet for a long moment, considering his words. They could run, could disappear into new lives, new names, new histories. But running meant always looking over their shoulders, always waiting for the past to catch up. No, she said finally. Celeste, be reasonable. These people won't stop, and we stop them. She stepped back, her dark eyes blazing with the same fire that had driven her to collect evidence against Victor. I'm tired of running, Dante. Tired of letting fear make my decisions. My father spent his whole life running from his choices, and it killed him. I won't make that mistake. What are you saying? I'm saying we stay. We fight. Build something here that's worth fighting for. Celeste moved to the railing, gripping it with white knuckles. You destroyed your father's empire, but you left a vacuum. Other people are going to try to fill it. Bad people. So let them fight each other and stay out of it. Or we make sure the right people win. Celeste turned back to him, and Dante saw something in her expression that reminded him of the woman who had killed a man to protect the flash drive. Your father's contacts, his resources, his territory, it doesn't have to disappear. It can be transformed. Dante stared at her in shock. You're talking about taking over? I'm talking about cleaning house, using what your father built for. Something better. Her voice was steady, certain. The Romano name still carries weight in this city. People still fear it, respect it. We could use that. Celeste, do you hear what you're saying? You're talking about becoming everything we fought against. I'm talking about becoming something different, something better. She reached for his hands, her touch gentle despite the steel in her voice. No drugs, no human trafficking, no senseless violence. But protection for people who need it. Justice for those who can't get it through legal channels. A different kind of empire. Dante was quiet for a long moment, processing her words. He'd spent the past 6 months trying to distance himself from his father's legacy, but maybe Celeste was right. Maybe the answer wasn't to run from what he was, but to transform it into something he could live with. It would be dangerous, he said finally. There would be people who would try to stop us, both criminals and law enforcement. When has our life ever been safe? A smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. Fair point. We have advantages. Your father never had, Celeste continued. Clean money from your tech company, relationships with federal agents who trust us, and most importantly, we have each other. No secrets, no betrayals, no hidden agendas. Partners in crime, partners in justice. She kissed him again, deeper this time. What do you say, Mr. Romano? Ready to build an empire the right way? Dante looked out over the city, seeing it, not as his father had, as territory to be conquered and exploited, but as something to be protected and nurtured. It would be dangerous work, There would be enemies, challenges, moments when the line between justice and vengeance became blurred. But with Celeste beside him, he felt capable of anything. On one condition, he said, Grace stays out of it. Completely. She gets her clean start, no matter what. Agreed. Celeste extended her hand with mock formality. Partners. Partners. Dante shook her hand, then pulled her against him, though I think we should seal this deal properly. As he kissed her, the sun climbed higher over Chicago, burning away the shadows and illuminating the city that would soon discover what happened when two broken people decided to stop running from their darkness and start using it to create light. 6 months later, the first rumors would begin to circulate about the new power structure emerging in Chicago's underworld. They spoke of a ghost network that seemed to know everything, see everything, and strike with surgical precision against those who preyed on the innocent. They spoke of the Romano name rising from the ashes, but different now, changed. And at the center of it all, they whispered about a woman with dark eyes and a man with gray ones, who had taken the tools of corruption and reforged them into instruments of justice. But that's a story for another time. For now, Celeste Santos and Dante Romano stood on their balcony in the morning light, planning their war against the darkness, knowing that some battles are worth fighting no matter the cost, even if the cost is everything you once were. The end.